Well, I guess we can start. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. Hello. This is the video game panel. I hope that's the panel you wanted to be in because that's where you are. So congratulations. How many people here play games? Everybody, just about. Okay. How about toys? Does anybody play with toys here, or has played with toys, or collects toys, perhaps collectibles? Because these are all topics that we will discuss today, and you'll see how they intertwine, they interact with each other, and how there are so many opportunities that you probably haven't even thought of as far as careers in those interconnected industries. So my name is Marlene Sharp, and I am the moderator of this panel today. And thank you all for coming to the first ever Autism in Entertainment Conference. Yes, clap for yourself. Yay, you made it here. Yay, we all did. It's a long time in coming. And everybody on this panel is very passionate about the subject of autism and how people on the spectrum can play a bigger part in the entertainment industry. Some have more experience in hiring folks on the spectrum than others, but they all have something in common in that they want to give opportunities to people on the spectrum in the toy and game industry. So you will also have a chance to answer, or maybe you can answer some questions. I bet some of you know lore and canon much more than we do on various IPs, but you can ask questions today by way of index cards. So Josh here is our room captain. He has index cards. Do you have pens too? Okay. He's there he is. He's well.
The wagon blood.
No. So he will pass out the cards and pens any second now, so you can write your questions, and then he'll collect them and we'll answer them up here on stage at some point before we're done. Okay, well, we'll see. We're very casual here, so we might change things up a bit.
If not, you want to write it down. If you want to stand up to the microphone.
Yeah, we're open to both. So while you're getting your cards and questions ready, we can start with the introductions of this beautiful panel that we have assembled, plus special guest, the surprise guest today. But I will pass it on to the guests and have each one introduce himself or herself or themselves to you. Ken.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. So my name's Ken Weissman. Hi. And I've been in the kids industry for a really long time now. Like, we're moving on 35 years. I've worked on as many as 50 different kids television series. Some have been wildly successful, some of them wildly not successful. Right now we're working on the most important and definitive climate change series for kids around the globe. And we've launched a video program in schools in America that I'm proud to say was of all the videos in classrooms in America, the Meet Your Heroes were number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 12, and 25 most watched videos in classrooms across the country. So super excited about that. Thanks. And I always go, I've spoken about myself too long.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jenna Rosenberg, and I have worked in the toy industry and touching on the entertainment and gaming industry for the past, next year will be 30 years. I spent a lot of my career as a publicist, which means I got the toys and games and brands in the news. And I have an inventing business, and I'm very focused on talking about career opportunities within the consumer product space. And there's tons of consumer products that intersect gaming. So looking forward to being here today. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. My name is Warren Davis, and I am probably best known for my game design and programming work that I did in the 80s on arcade games. My first game was called Qbert, and I followed that up with a thank you.
Hey, and you hurt.
I'm still surprised that anybody remembers what that was. Yes, that's right. So there's a plus for Disney. They put Qbert in their movie. Anyway, thank you. So, but I've worked on other things. I guess my other big contribution to the video games industry was I created the digitizing system that was used in all of Midway's games in the late 80s and 90s. Mortal Kombat, NBA Jam, Terminator 2, and many more allowed the use of live actors to be digitized and put in those games. I created that system. I've worked in the home market as well in the 2000s. I worked for ILM in the R&D department for a little bit, and I'm pretty much a semi-retired software consultant. I do still work for Sony. I keep my little pinky toe in the games industry. So there.
And all the fan cons that you visit, quote, all the fan cons. He's reading autographs every weekend, just about. Yeah.
I do go to a lot of retro gaming conventions, and I've written a memoir, so I bring that and I can sign that for people. So anyway, that's me.
Oh, you got your...
Hello? Yeah.
There you go.
So hi, my name is Jasmine Hernandez. I work at Sega of America. I work at the animation department. I worked on the short form content. So if you've seen Sonic Mania Adventures, that came out with the release of Sonic Mania Plus, I worked on that. And most recently, one of my projects was Sonic Superstars Tree of Trouble. I've been in the animation industry for over 10 years. I can't do math right now, but yeah, that is what I've been working in. And I've made appearances on the Sonic live streams. I've got to experience different roles at Sega and working with different departments there in the animation department. So it's been fun. Very nice to meet everyone here.
Hi, my name's Jamie Johnson. I actually started in the corporate world in 2000 or 99, I guess. And after about 15 years in corporate operations, I realized that I wasn't fulfilled. So I went back to school for game design and worked a few years in the game industry in various positions. My favorite one probably as a technical artist. Until eventually finding myself working at a school called Game Gen, where we help people kind of realize their own dreams of designing and publishing games. And that's what we do. And yeah, I see some students there. Awesome. So yeah, we just love helping people fulfill their dreams and doing what they love.
Hi, my name is Chris Tremmel. I first wanted to say how humbling it is to be on the panel with all of these folks. Every one of them has done something that has been really inspiring to me growing up and also what I do right now. So I'm a creative director in the game industry. I started in around 1992. I've worked on almost every platform that's been out since then, starting on like 8-bit Nintendo, all the way up to PlayStation 5. My first game that I ever did was for Sega, for Genesis, which was my favorite at the time. Was called Boogerman, a pick and flick adventure. So if you have an opportunity to look it up. It's pretty funny. But now I'm working with a company called Roughhouse Games. I've been in the NFT and Web3 space for the last couple of years, and we're building a game called Champions Ascension, which I also brought today. I brought 20 slips of paper that have my email on them, and if you guys want to get them from Marlene afterwards, just...
When I don't know, we have to decide how to give these out, but there are 20 of them.
Yeah, you can, if you don't get one from her, look me up on LinkedIn. My name's on the program, and I will get one for you. So they're ebooks for the game that we're working on currently. So we do a lot of book stuff also.
especially with us.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a good, that's very good. Great. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Jamie, I'm going to put you on the spot first because Jamie on this panel, I think, is the only one who's really focused on training the next generation of game developers, game designers, creative directors, and everything. So could you talk a little bit about what it takes to train for, and how you go about training folks on the spectrum for game industry careers?
Yeah. So it's hard work. It's definitely same thing. And I see some heads nodding, from students. But yeah, for us, we really start off, whether you have a little bit of experience or not, we start off from the very basics, and we start with asteroids. And you learn how to make the first game just like we made the first game in real life, and you get a sense of a little bit of the coding, a little bit of the art. And as you're going through the decades of games and making them, you kind of get a sense of, actually, I think I really like the art. I just want to focus on the art and work on character animation or whatever it is that you love and have a passion for. And so that's where we focus on, and so it's got to be about what you love doing, because it is a lot of hard work and you have to put in the hours. And so we really try to, keep pushing you forward, making progress. And when you're ready, we have a career development person that really helps dial you in to what you want to do, making contacts, reaching out, look up a job you want. And if you don't have the skills, we help you get the skills. And applying for those jobs, mock interviews, we try to do the whole thing. And we try to look outside of just traditional, jobs at big studios, look at small studios, look at publishing your own work, selling your assets on the game store, whatever it is. There's so many different ways to get in there. But as long as you continue moving forward, that's the best path forward.
Now, Jenna works in the education space as well. She has a bit of a different area of expertise as opposed to there's video games, but before video games, there were board games and game shows. And this is what Jenna knows about. Could you tell us some more about your work with students and toys and games? Yeah. Oh. Okay.
Hi. Yeah. I've worked on some incredible video game titles over my career, launching Atari joysticks and Pac-Man, and working on a lot of consumer products and board games. But right now I'm teaching a class actually around careers in the toy industry, then toys, video games, and licensing, especially that intersect social impact. And so I feel there's, it's a perfect topic for today because so many talented people who have a lot of different skills and interests. And what I want them to understand is whatever you love, like what you said, whatever you love, and then I couple it with whatever you're really good at, there's jobs doing that in the toy and gaming industry. And so, when I was a kid, we grew up on board games. We played Monopoly and, Payday and everything, Cubert and Pac-Man. And it really inspired me to want to work into the toy industry, but I just fell into it accidentally. And so I think that if people know about that, there's 300 toy makers here in Southern California that are working on consumer products related to the video game properties, the most popular video game properties of today, and board games, there you could really find a very cool job working for one of these 300 companies here in Southern California.
Yeah, that's great to keep in mind that the game industry is more than just video games, board games, and also Jenna is working on a game show right now too.
Yeah, I have a client of mine. I'm a licensing agent, and I wear a number of hats. We're inventing, we're doing publicity. I'm a licensing agent, and I'm representing a gentleman named Mark Maxwell Smith, and he is a game show legend. He actually worked on a lot of shows like Joker's Wild and Truth or Consequences, and he had a show called Talk About in the late 80s, and it was a big hit worldwide, and there was a board game, and now there's going to be a reboot of the show, and I'm working on getting him a new board game partner, so that's been really fun reintroducing this classic board game to lots of new companies who are pretty excited about the opportunity.
And Ken has an interesting contribution to the world of gaming, or several contributions. So he's been involved with iconic IPs like Teletubbies and Thomas the Tank Engine. Especially Thomas the Tank Engine has a very devoted fan base within the autism community, and he was on the forefront of discovering that and amplifying that. And then in his new property, Medio Heroes, he's actually working with an influencer who is on the spectrum, who's the voice of the brand, and she hosts a podcast. So, Ken, could you tell us a little bit about your collaboration with folks on the spectrum?
I have my own
Great.
I usually doubt, but we'll make it work. I used to work in the garment industry, and at some point I went, oh, it's so sleazy. I've got to find something else to do with my life. And I just happened upon a TV show that was Thomas the Tank Engine, Shining Time Station in America. And I really, no disrespect to anybody, and I really was a businessman that made a business decision to get involved. And I said, you could make a lot of money in the television world. And really, that was my motivation. And I don't usually tell people this, but a few weeks into the job, it was quite busy. There was a lot of chaos going on. And I usually have a buffer. There's always someone between me and everyone else. And I have 2 buffers today. They're back there. But normally I have a buffer. And Gnocchi as well. Gnocchi brings them, and my 2 back there keep everybody away from me. But anyway, I was super busy. The phone rang in my office. Usually my assistant, this is about as transparent as I can get. My assistant usually just takes the message, and I don't speak to people. And the call went through, and it was a woman who had a son that was autistic. He hadn't spoken. He was in a catatonic state most of the day. And but when the Shining Time Station came on and the Thomas the Tank Engine segment happened, he would stop moving and he would just stare at the screen. And the mother, and it's always the mother knew that this was a connection, that there was a way for her to break through and get to her child. So she reached out and she said, anything you have, anything, I'll buy it, whatever, because there was very little product on shelves at the time. And I was, my job was to make those products. So we had a lot of stuff that didn't work. It was over-dyed. There was something, for some reason, I wasn't satisfied with it. And I told the woman, this is all that I have, but we'll pack up stuff and send it to you. And off it went. And I literally didn't think about her again for the next 3 weeks. 3 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. When I opened it, a Polaroid, it was like in a movie, just in slow motion. This Polaroid spun and landed on my desk. And it was a picture of a young boy wearing this T-shirt. And I knew it had to be this boy because we hadn't sold it. It wasn't available. And there was this long letter. And the short of the story is that the mother said that when the package arrived, we put stickers all over it with Thomas and stuff. And she said, hey, you've got a package from Thomas. And so Billy stopped moving, got up and ran over to it, looked at it, waited, and she opened the package and pulled out this T-shirt, and he said, choo-choo. That was the first words he's ever spoken, and she found a way to use Thomas as a bridge for her to be able to communicate with her kid. And it was the first time that I understood what my job is, because I thought, I make toys, I make stuff, but I didn't really understand that I was creating bridges for families to be able to connect with each other. And I realized that the kids live in the same world that we do. They just receive information differently from us. And it changed the trajectory of my life. And I helped create the Teletubbies based on knowledge that we had. I went on now to help 45, 50 other shows to understand that their job is more than to just put something on screen. It's to really understand and make sure that what we're doing connects. So even the toy product, the books that I've written, everything that I do always circles back to that one moment when that Polaroid fell on my desk and made me realize that I have more to do. So I know I've gone up to 3 hours.
No, this is fascinating.
This Meet Your Heroes show is a very similar situation. And I'll just give you a quick little, 84% of kids across the globe are worried to extremely worried about their planet. They're worried that when they grow up, the planet literally won't be here anymore. So kids are suffering this extraordinary anxiety, and the government and a bunch of educators have decided that kids are upset because of COVID and that they've missed school. I can promise you there's 2% of kids across the globe worry about missing school. 84% of them are worried that the planet's not going to be here anymore, and that's the existential crisis of their lifetime. That's why we made Meet Your Heroes. When we started looking at how could we take Meet Your Heroes from the screen and put it into the classroom, what I said and the reason that I think I'm really here, this one message, if I only say one thing of value, this is the value. When I look for people, whatever they are, I look for the best people. I don't care if you have one leg, one arm, I don't care if your hair is blue. I don't care. All I care about is, are you the best person for this project? With Meet Your Heroes, when we went to classrooms, I said, I want an Uber fan. I want a really, truly authentic Uber fan. And we found Brianna. Brianna is on the spectrum. She's 24 years old, and she loves with such passion, which I find most of the autistic people that I interact with have a passion and a love that's so pure, that's so authentic, that you can't duplicate that. You can't get an actor to do it. So Brianna is producing these segments for us, where she's doing them both for audio and for video. And we're putting the video podcasts into classrooms. And when I told you we were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 12, and 25, it's Brianna and her passion that has brought this, where everyone's like, it's a risk, maybe kids won't connect to her. And I'm like, they will connect to her passion. And I'm so glad that we just stuck to our guns, because now we're actually looking for funding to take her and this podcast and expand it so we can get into 30,000 schools in the United States, which would impact, 10 to 15 million kids between the ages of 4 and 10 years old.
That's amazing. Do we want to pause for a minute and see if there are any questions? That anybody have a question on a piece of paper, or want to raise your hand with a question?
Remember, you get a free...
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. We have swag.
Do you need a microphone?
Oh, wait, wait. Here's his prize. Oh, wait, that's the blanket. That's the prize.
I fooled you.
So you can either give me your note card or answer your question with the microphone. Up to you. So we have a question. What is the average pay per year for an internship position in the game industry?
Wow. That is a tough question. Does anyone want to venture an answer, or... Oh, okay.
I don't think there is an average. And maybe you guys will disagree with me, but I really think it depends on the company and your skill set, right? So you really just go in and just try to get as much as you can. Is really the best. I don't know. Do you guys have a standard?
My first internship was 0. So yeah.
It's the word intern. That's the if it was an entry level position, you'd probably get a different answer. But as an intern, we tend to pay very little because we're teaching you on. It's like whatever you get, you're getting a degree in that, and you're getting paid something, or it might just be lunch.
That's a good answer. Okay.
So my question is, what job positions for this industry would is good to start off with, or ways to get in the door? That's me to do that.
That's a good question. Jasmine, maybe you would want to say something about how Sega is very open to fan contributions.
Yeah, so there's various,
Chris, oh, sorry.
yeah, go ahead. So there are various ways to get into the,
Yeah, just for
oh, is this, okay. So there are various entry levels that you can go in. There's also, we have production assistants, we have QA, but also Sega is very unique where we engage with our fans, especially with Sonic. And what's really interesting is that we do have a lot of passionate fans who show their artwork, the games that they have designed. And so that gets attention on social media, and that kind of sparks that kind of relationships that we kind of look at. We look at how people present themselves. Are they professional? And it's a very interesting way where we can have the opportunity to see people's talent online when they post fan art, when they post games, when they post video editing, things that they work on. Seeing that passion and love for a brand is super important, but there are different avenues to go in other than presenting your stuff online.
So I started in the industry in quality assurance, which at the time was called testers. So that's all. A lot of people that I work with started in that position. The nice thing about a position like that is you get to experience game development from a lot of different angles with all the different disciplines on a team. You also learn the working dynamics of how a project's made and what it goes through to get from the beginning to the end. Another thing now that is more relevant than ever is content creation online. So we pay a lot of content creators on YouTube or on Twitter to actually build content based on our game. So it might be a streamer, or it might be someone who just makes videos with our actual game itself and narrates it. And so that's a really interesting way, too, that you can get in with some of these companies and multiple companies at the same time while making a little bit of money with it.
Another thing might be of interest to some people is coming into a video game company as a tester in the QA department. If you're a video game player, that gives you a big leg up because they need testers. They need people to basically sit and play new games all day, find bugs, and report those bugs back to the development team. And it's a foot in the door. It's a way to play games, which presumably you like to do. And it's a way to get to know the people in the company and get to know a lot about the games themselves and what they're doing. Is that a hand up in the back?
Can I ask?
Certainly.
I could not tell you that. You know, that's a thing you'd have to go to the. I would go to the companies like Sony and Sega, Naughty Dog, Riot Games. Go to their websites and see if they're looking for QA.
And you know who might have answers at this very conference to that question is a company called Zavikon. Zavikon has a table on the exhibit floor, and Zavikon is one of the sponsors of this conference. And Zavikon specializes in job placement for people with disabilities, but their super specialty is for people on the spectrum. And so they work with a lot of video game companies that have an initiative where they are open to people on the spectrum. They actively recruit them. One of those companies is Ubisoft, and Ubisoft had a speaker or two on one of the morning panels. I don't know if any of you attended that, but Ubisoft is really a pioneer in that regard in neurodivergent hiring. So if you have a chance before you leave today, stop by the Zavikon table and you can ask them some of these questions about entry-level opportunities, paid internships, things like that.
When you were asking a question, were you talking specifically about the video game industry? Right. 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 Right.
How it can be effective in a gaming environment, being a modeler, taking art. Like he can design the art, but he's even better at taking somebody else's art and making it real, like the real 3D.
Right. See, I personally think that sometimes if you have the ability to show someone your talent, right? So you take whatever it is, an existing character, you take Mario, and you take the Mario Brothers and you show them something you've created, if you could get in, they're going to look at that and go, who did that? And it's a way sometimes where you prove yourself, you create something, and someone's going to take notice. But I think it doesn't matter what job you come in at. Just make sure you do it really well, okay? Whatever the job is, you will get noticed. And as you continue to take on these tasks and do them really well, they're going to want to give you more, and they're going to want to make sure you stay as part of that company. So I always tell people you've got your handshake and your smile, right? And so you just got to work those two things as much as you can. And whatever task you're given, it's the most important task in the world. And as long as you achieve it, and you achieve it with success, you will continue to move up in whatever company, no matter what role you started in that company as, right?
Also, with 3D modeling in the toy industry, there's a really big need for that, for prototypes of toys. So if you can make characters, whether it's to show Walmart what, an action figure of Q-Bird might look like, or, for the product development team, to show models for the manufacturing team, maybe in China. So they're making a lot of, handmade or with 3D printing. I was talking with some people today and they said, oh, I have a skill of knowing how to 3D print things. Or what could I do if I like to be an illustrator, So even creating models, maybe with Legos or, drawing them or with clay of what a trade show booth might look like. There's so many different roles.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot to one thing about the QA position and another avenue that I want to get everybody on the panel here, their opinion on it. But we have a student that's just got a job at the toy company as well because they're really talented 3D artists. So absolutely, that's a great avenue. But for the QA position, I also, did a QA at Disney Interactive, and it was minimum wage at that point, just as an example. But how I got it was different than I expected. And I have a friend who still works in the industry, and almost I'd say 90% of her jobs have been through placement agencies. I don't know if you guys have experienced that as well, where people get in through agencies.
Temp agents. I guess temping is still a thing, right?
Well, it was, and I guess it's technically temp, but I mean, she was able to get full-time positions at each, like at Microsoft, at Bandai. She worked on so many big games. And I don't know, she's a project manager, so maybe it's specific to project management or a position, but it seems like placement agencies still have a place out there.
And that's Zavikon. It is considered a headhunter, placement agency. There's a number of different ways you could qualify what they do, but and there are other companies like that, but since Zavikon's here on site, you might want to stop by.
Get something else. I think it's super important that you get seen, okay? And it doesn't matter how you get seen, and the route you take may not be a straight path, okay? So I think it's a great suggestion. The toy industry desperately needs 3D modelers. It might not be what you want ultimately. Ultimately, you may want to work for video games, but you go into the game industry, do get somebody to hire you to do a couple 3D models, and suddenly you've got a reputation as a good 3D modeler, and then you find yourself working for a different company, or you can move around. So I think if you have a specific skill set, don't worry so much about the company, worry about getting the experience at it, And then once you have that under your belt and a reputation for it, then it's much easier to get placed someplace else. It's like the conundrum of, you're an actor, you're a really talented actor, but nobody will hire you because you don't have any experience. You know what I mean? Or you don't have anything on film. So I always tell them, just film something. Just keep filming yourself, and then you can create a reel, even if you made it. If it's all just made up, but at least people can see your skill set. That's why I was saying to you, if Sega's biggest character is whatever it is, then, or their new game is whatever it is, then make a model of it and send it to somebody, and somebody will take notice. Or go work for Hasbro and do a 3D model of something, anything, and then you can use that as leverage or as an entry point into another company.
We have any other?
I was just gonna hop on to that as well. Just social media is also a big thing that you want to put yourself out there, like with TikTok, with Twitter, X. You want to make sure that your art is out there. Like I said, Sega is a big advocate of seeing what people do, and it's really that fan engagement that we love. And I will say, Sonic fans are very talented, very talented at what they do, and just keep posting things out there, and you can work in the industry. I didn't think I would be working in video games. I initially started in animation, and I found myself at Sega. And so that is an entry point to get in. And then like Jenna said, licensing, I work with the licensing team and our office, and we do have 3D modelers that they work with. So it's really important just to get yourself out there. And I think social media is a great avenue for that as well.
Do you guys know what licensing is? Is that a familiar term for most of you, or would you like a definition of it or some explanation? So licensing is when there's an owner of an intellectual property and they transfer the rights to that property to some other company to make a manifestation of that property in some other area. So like, let's say Mattel owns Barbie, but Mattel doesn't manufacture every single Barbie product. They specialize in the dolls and the doll clothes and the play sets. But what about T-shirts or accessories and things like that? Those licenses are granted to third-party companies, and then they make those products and sell them, and then they give some of the money back to Mattel, and then they keep some of the money. And so even if you don't get to work for, let's say, the maker of Sonic the Hedgehog, you might not work for Sega at Sega headquarters, but you might have a whole career working on Sonic the Hedgehog as one of the licensees. You might be working for the T-shirt company or the belt company or the pet products company, and you could be doing 3D modeling at one of those places, or even 2D illustrations or marketing or all kinds of things. So I know I work a lot with animation students, and everybody always thinks, oh, I want a career in animation, I want to go work at Pixar or Disney. And that's usually like the two stalwarts of everyone has those top two goals. And there's so many ways you could work on Disney and Pixar products and properties, but you don't ever have to set foot on the Disney lot, even though it's great fun, of course, to do that. But you can still have the perks of going to the lot and having meetings there and so forth, and you might even have a longer career with an IP that you love by working through a licensee. Yes.
Of course,
Oh, you mean like copyright infringement?
Or too bad, like have like when into Brad, even like
when I did Thomas the Teletubbies, there was a product that in Mexico called the Tubbly Wubblies, right? And Walmart decided to carry the Tubbly Wubblies in their store. And there's a law in America, I'm an expert on this law now, that's called passing off. So if you have a copyright, it's your copyright. You own The Simpsons. Nobody can make The Simpsons or The Simpson or anything that would be confusing to an audience, you know? So this law, this passing off law, we've had to enforce it many, many times for many projects. But you know, when you go into the licensing world, when you go into copyright or IP ownership, that you're going to be dealing with people who are going to try to do an end run around your copyrights. Right.
Yeah, I really want that guy in the S. Yeah, here for what I need paid for this for well. And how much that it paid. Did they pay right the car?
So I did not program Qbert for Atari. I programmed Qbert for the arcade. That was the original version of Qbert. Then what happened was the company I worked for, Gottlieb, hired Parker Brothers to make all the home versions of it. So other people programmed for all the home systems. I just programmed the original. And that was in assembler language, 8086 assembler language, which is the lowest form of code. It's least like English. But to answer the other part of your question, how do you train to be a Q&A? If you can play a game, that's a huge head start. If you like playing games, but there's other skills you need. You need to be able to, you need to be detail oriented. If you find a bug, you need to be able to figure out how to repeat that bug. You need to be able to be eloquent enough to write down the steps so that another person can experience that, so that the programmers can find these bugs and fix them. So it's not just playing games, there's other skills you need. So it involves communications and writing. So I would concentrate on those skills that you need. As for programming, you can learn programming any number of ways. Some people are self-taught. There are schools that teach you programming. Most modern games are written in a higher level language like C++ or C#. There are tools out there, the Unreal Engine and the Unity engines are free. You can download them, and there's a million videos online that teach you how to use them. So there are a lot of ways to get your skills going, but you have to give yourself the time and you have to give yourself the patience, because it's not always an easy learning curve, and you may find it's not for you. My son wanted to be a video game programmer when he was a teenager, and then he tried doing it. And it was like, you know what? Not for me. So, and I can say the same thing about acting. I had a friend who was an actor and got a good part in a movie and found out that you spend 90% of your day sitting around waiting, and that was the end of it for her. She went into talk radio. So the reality of doing things isn't always what you might think it is. So you need to keep yourself open, see if it's really something you're enjoying.
Yeah, I love that, because your friend example, and I would love to encourage all of you, you're more than just the thing you do. And so if you can figure out how to use the thing you're really good at doing and then combine it with what you love, you can really find something that fills your bucket and brings you a lot of joy in terms of a career choice. So your friend I'm guessing, right? She was going to be an actor. And so she was able to communicate, to read a script, to say lines. And then she's like, but this acting gig's not for me, but I'm going, I can be, what was she? A talk radio host. And so she used those skills, those interpersonal communication skills, to be able to, speak with people with enthusiasm and communicate in an engaging way, in a different way. And I think that is something, like when we're talking about game design and like all these topics that we're talking about, the licensing industry and how you can use the thing that you're good at if you love gaming, but maybe you're also really into fashion and you're great at drawing, maybe you can help create the consumer products line for, Minecraft. And then, there's a company that recently I was talking with the head of Minecraft, and they did a footwear collaboration, right? And they're doing all these like high level fashion collaborations. So these are different ways, with SpongeBob SquarePants, you don't have to work on the show, you don't have to work on the toys, but maybe you're going to design the theme park or maybe the Broadway show. And so you can, conceptualize some of these from a drawing standpoint, or maybe a building standpoint, or create the model of the prototype of what the Broadway stage looks like. So just like helping to open the ideas for possibilities.
And fun fact about Warren Davis, he's a video game designer who became an actor. So
you could be a multi-hyphenate, right? We don't have to do one thing.
yes, look up Warren on
Actually,
IMDb.
I was both, like, from the beginning of my video career, I was also an actor then. So
Oh, okay. But now he's a super actor. Yeah.
I'm
right.
jack of all trades, master of none.
Oh,
Hello. Thank you for being here, by the way. I was just sort of curious, what would you recommend or suggest for an aspiring game writer to try and find a career or a path forwards?
There's a ton of journalists. So another aspect of any of these, did you say game writer? I mean, I don't know if this is the kind of writing that you're thinking of, but there are bloggers who write about video games. There are, business writers who write about the business of the video game industry. Or is that not the kind of writing you mean?
So yeah,
Like, there's these kind of writers too, right?
I think game companies actually advertise for that specific title. Like if you go onto LinkedIn or whatever, game companies will advertise for that. And so what you need to do then is develop your writing skills and and come up with samples. If you can work for a smaller studio, now if you can find a bigger studio who wants to take a chance on somebody new, give somebody a chance, at some new talent, that's great. You might want to start at a smaller studio because they might be more likely to take somebody untested and give them a chance. So those are the options I go with.
Yeah, I think just one example, we do have a Sonic the Hedgehog comic book. One of the head writers there has helped with game writing. Recently on Sonic Frontiers, Ian Flynn, he is a comic book writer, and because he is very passionate about the brand and knows the characters, we've developed a relationship with him, and he has helped with game writing. So I think that's also a testament to, trying a different position and working on it and showing your passion for a specific brand or for whatever games that you want to do, what kind of genre, and finding your way into that space as well.
I'm going to just throw something out for you, right? So I've had a lot of success in the television space. I've worked on a lot of shows, and I've had show ideas ripped off even after the success. Like, they've never ripped me off, and then they have, where I'll go in and pitch an idea for a show, and they'll pass on it and then make the show without me. That's happened a number of times. So when you're a writer and you're going to say, oh, I have an idea, I'm going to, for something, I'm going to go submit it, if you don't have proper protection, they could steal your idea from you. So I always tell people, make 3 copies, 6 copies of whatever it is, mail it to yourself, and don't open the envelope. So at least you have even a poor man's copyright to show that you had this. And I would make sure to have some way of tracking that you sent this information to that company, just so to try. They might still be able to rip you off, and they certainly will have more money and more lawyers, but at least you can do something to try to protect yourself in that way.
Sweet. So we're almost out of time. I want to make sure everyone's questions get answered. So if everyone's written on their note cards what their question is, I can go ahead and collect them. And I think we'll just do a rapid fire through our panelists and make sure those all get answered. So,
Chris. Okay. Chris, go ahead.
Oh, I was just regarding the writing. I was just going to say that in the industry right now, the interactive writing is really, really big. So there's companies like Telltale Games who did a lot of the Walking Dead stuff. They've recently, I forget the game that they've recently released, but narrative-driven games are a whole genre right now. So being able to present your concepts in that format is also would be a real positive aspect. So download one of the tools like Unreal or Unity, and it's pretty straightforward to build interactive fiction. And I think that's a big part of the gaming world right now.
Oh, I guess I go. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Hi. So I'm here with my client, Rochelle, who's a perspective animator. I know Sega is like the dream. And Jasmine, you shared that Sega likes to interact with their fans and connect with their fans. And I think you said a lot of like social media. But I was wondering, what are the spaces that folks can informally and formally connect with these companies besides maybe like LinkedIn? Where are companies finding their talent in maybe non-traditional ways online?
Yeah, so our social media team is really great, and they are really great at interacting with their fans. We do have a Sonic official live stream that we request fan art from people so that we can put their art on top of the live stream and at the end of the live stream, and then we give them a little shout out for their art contribution. So I would say just submit your stuff online and like tag, the socials. And like we've had some posts where we've asked for like, hey, how would you interpret this in your own style? So we've had some certain of those aspects of our social media planning. But yeah, I would say just put your artwork out there and show how much you care about the brand. And like we worked with, for me specifically, one of the directors that we work with, Tyson Hesh, he started with comic books just being fun, did fan art for Sonic the Hedgehog, and now I've worked with him with a lot of projects, Sonic Mini Adventures being one of them, and he is such a great talent to have. And I think that's just a testament of just, you never know. You could still go into whatever, Sega is the dream, but also take opportunities at different places, but still, interact with us.
She's very talented.
We're about to have a magic moment here. Somebody wrote this question, which is an important question, but even more important, put art on here with Q*bert and Sonic and Tails and Knuckles and Sonic on the back saying, "Don't give up." These are amazing illustrations. The question is, what advice can you give to anyone who is struggling to find their place in the video game and toy industry? But I'm also going to pass the question down so that all the panelists can see this, and please answer the question too as it gets done.
Okay, well, I would say immerse yourself in resources. So, for example, in the toy industry, there are trade magazines. Like one is called The Toy Book, another is called The Licensing Book or Licensed Global Magazine. They have A&B Media. They have free emails every day, and you can familiarize yourself with the companies and the projects that they're working on. Maybe reach out to the HR department, the human resource departments, and look at the company's websites that make products with brands that you love. And lastly, I'm part of a group called Women in Toys, Licensing and Entertainment. They also serve men, but they have a job board, and they offer free memberships to students. So I know some of you are not still students, but they also have a paid membership for people who are entering the industry, and they have job boards for men and women, a lot of entry-level positions, and I would check that out.
First, I want to say that's a beautifully drawn question. Even the text, the drawings are phenomenal. So congratulations. You are very talented. But no, look, every artist I've ever worked with in the video game industry always carried a pad with them, whether we were in a meeting or at lunch or just sitting around, and they would always be sketching. Always. They'd just have sketches. There you go. So you belong in the industry. Let's put it that way. But as far as advice, what I have to say is not particularly maybe practical, but because I'm not involved in hiring, and the industry was much different when I was in it. It's much more competitive now, and what I would say, the advice I would give you is, you've got to be patient, you've got to be focused. You can't let rejection get to you. You have to believe in yourself, and believe me, I believe in you right now, so you should. But that's really what it takes, because you don't know if it's going to be easy or if it's going to be incredibly difficult. It's a very competitive industry, and there are so many people struggling to find a place in it. So, creative, practical solutions, I will leave to other people. I would just say you got to believe in yourself and be patient.
And I think that answered two other questions, like what's the process to take a concept to reality, and I want to be a game developer, where do I start? So that's a great answer for all of those questions as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the fan art. I love it. So you've been noticed. Yeah. Like everyone said, you answered your own question, but also building community is also something that's really big. You want to look out for each other and, post opportunities that are there. That is also very important to have that. But yeah, very talented. Thank you.
Can I just throw something in here too? Tenaciousness and passion go a long way, right? But here was an opportunity. You're sitting in front of a room up with some people that have some ability to do something, right? And you show them your talent right there. Like, we didn't know you. You were just another person in a room, and now suddenly you're like, shit, this girl's talented. You know what I mean? I think that you answered your own question is really what I wanted. It's no, the only passion and tenaciousness, that's the secret ingredient. If you can't worry about rejection, you don't want to be a stalker, so you've got to find balance. No, but if all you really have to do is show someone that you're talented and you have a passion for what you do, and however you can do that, you do it. And I tried to get into Netflix for a pitch meeting 1,000 times and couldn't get into the room. So I just started sending cake, right? And I made sure that my characters were on the cakes, right? So, or I had cupcakes that were shaped like I just kept sending them food, right? Because I was determined to get into the room and did, right? For everybody. And so the cakes are outside. And when I tried to sell the Teletubbies to PBS, I could not get them to answer my call. So we had fax machines then. So I faked a hunger strike for 33 days. I sent them a note every day for 33 days through their fax machine with just the big number 1 up to 33 with a little note. I'm hungry, but I can do it, and whatever it was. And on the 33rd day, they really were worried that I was having a hunger strike. I was on a hunger strike, and they agreed to meet with me. So they didn't want the idea of a producer dying because they wouldn't meet them. And I'm known for that. So whatever it takes, and that's the answer to all of your questions. Whatever it takes is the answer.
And real quick too, Isabel, you already have all the qualities that anyone would be lucky to have. I mean, seriously, like, you see her artistic ability, and we're so proud of you, but every piece of advice we've ever given her, she takes it and she runs with it, and she grows, and she is not afraid to get out of her comfort zone. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, you got Jalen, you got Woo, you got Max over there, yeah.
Yes.
But she's always made us proud. They all have. And, and I think one of the biggest ones is stepping out of your comfort zone is huge. Not everybody can do that. And when you're willing to do that, it's awesome. So keep it up.
And so, our video games using it is
One way video games are used in motion pictures is for pre-visualization. A lot of companies, special effects companies, use pre-visualization software, which is essentially just game engines, like the Unreal Engine or something, to create mock-ups of scenes that are planned for the movie. It's much, much more cost-efficient to be able to pre-visualize in a virtual environment a scene, rather than build huge sets. And you can figure out if something's going to work or not. And pre-visualization has been around for a very long time. I actually worked for ILM for a short time, working on pre-visualization software, and it was used by a lot of companies in Hollywood. So that's a way that video game technology is used in the movie business, and you might be able to tap into that.
We have some more.
I think we need to wrap it up because I think the other.
Yeah, so this is the end of our time, and I think they are handing out T-shirts in the main hall. So that is worth doing. I think that if the presenters are nice enough, you may be able to snag them for a question as they make their way over and try to run to get a T-shirt as well. But thank you guys all for coming, and
Thank you, everyone. It's been great talking with you. Thank you.